This is a conversation with Rohini Jatkar, leading GenAI Enablement for marketing at Intuit. As someone whose job is to get AI adopted, this is a first-party conversation on the road to AI, the stumbles, trends, and actionable advice. Rohini also lays out the spectrum of use cases, addresses AI tools fatigue, and we close out with a section on useful resources on how to start and keep evolving with AI. Welcome to the AI for Marketing show. I'm your host, Angelina, with many years of experience marketing in the tech industry. This show is for marketers to keep up with the pace of AI. We host conversations with innovative leaders who are navigating the world of AI for marketing. Today, we are joined by Rohini Jatkar, who's an expert in marketing and AI enablement or AI innovation. Rohini is leading GenAI Enablement currently at Intuit. And Rohini, getting ready for AI or getting AI ready is on everyone's mind. So this conversation could not have come at a better time. I'm really looking forward to it. Welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to have this conversation as well. And let me describe a little bit of my journey, how I've got to where I am right now. To get to senior strategic leader in the marketing space, my journey has definitely not been linear. It's been checkered. And I started many years ago, agency side, working on what I think of now as digital marketing 101, right? Your microsites, basic email campaign, search, display ads, etc. I swiftly moved to client side because I think I needed to see the other side of the coin, and my scrappy project management skills and sort of lean and agile methods from agencies suited me just beautifully when I moved to client side. I was able to add immediate velocity and really kind of expand of what we were working on into multi-channel marketing. By then, that had come to mean social media channels and mobile marketing. So I think along the way, I grew into an integrated marketing leader first. I've also worked at different industries, so it's been interesting to take learnings from one industry like a retail or one space, B2C, and apply it to like B2B in financial services. So bringing different lens to each of my roles, each of my progressive roles as I climbed the ladder, bringing multi-channel marketing, US and global marketing into either leading an overall team on integrated marketing or diving deep into any particular channel is sort of how my journey has evolved. And right now, over the last 2 years, I've been lucky enough to have a front row seat on AI transformation. So to your point, I agree with you. This conversation just comes at a wonderful time where I can bring all this to bear, hopefully to have some interesting discussions with you.
Awesome. That's such a rich background, honestly. And yeah, let's dive right into AI transformation, right? And maybe if you want to share a little bit about like how you're involved in that, and just some observations also, right, of like enterprises essentially getting ready for AI. Like, are they getting ready for AI or are they already there, right? Like in different stages?
Right.
Yeah, but would love to like get your thoughts on this.
So I think over the last 2 years, this thing has exploded, right? Become a thing. AI in marketing or AI anywhere, for example, has become a thing. And I think we all agree that the pivotal point was November 2022 when ChatGPT for public consumption, landed on us, if you will.
Yeah.
So to me, the market's adoption of AI has been in distinct phases. The initial uses really started at the tool-centric tactical end. So very simple experiments in, maybe brainstorming, maybe writing social copy from a white paper or generating an image. Very, very tool-centric, very singular sort of use cases. Now I see the shift though, as businesses are really like looking at their business challenges and what potential impact we could drive if we brought in these AI tools or strategies to impact them. And then looking at underlying use cases, maybe picking a few and then going after them. And then finally, the tools kind of come almost like at the very end. So it's been interesting to see this go from tool centric to strategy centric. And along the way, of course, not to forget the people, right, who are continuously needing to get upskilled and trained on AI. So to answer your specific question, our organizations getting ready for AI, I think we have no choice. They absolutely must.
Yeah.
And to me, the transformation has three pillars, right? It has the business, it has technology, and it has people. And you need to play with all of these and sort of build, scale, and transform your way into AI applications for whatever business you're driving.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that is true, right? Like 2 years ago, we were dabbling with like different tools and we were just experimenting, and everybody was fine with like piloting and trialing and all that stuff, right? Like, but it
Yeah.
feels like in 2 years, we've come a long way. And now people are really trying to understand, right? Like the justification, and not just like for a tool budget spend, but really trying to understand the outcomes it will drive, right? And how will it fit in? I mean, it's become actually a very complex landscape, especially when you talk about like MarTech stack, right? Like it's become so complicated. And not to mention, of course, all the issues with like data, privacy, compliance, and all that stuff. Like it's getting a very complicated situation for sure. I want to kind of like zoom in into something that you mentioned, which almost sounded like it could be the start or the head of a framework, really. Is you talked about businesses have to be thinking about business and technology and people, right? And have all three essentially carry their weight, right? Like as we undergo this transformation. So, do you want to like share a little bit more on that? Like, have you seen any specific, I mean, either within your own organization or elsewhere, right? Like where this has been done either well, or it could even be an example, like a learning situation, right? Like where you've got like the investment happening in technology and businesses on board, but there are no people who are skilled, you know what I mean? Like, so, but I would love to just kind of bring that more to life and hear from you your thoughts on a double click into the business, technology, and people
Right.
angle.
Such an interesting question. And I think it almost deserves to be answered based on the type of business you're in or the size of the organization, for example. And what I mean by that is if you're a large organization, AI projects can look like massive transformations just because of the sheer scale, the layers, the complexity, and the alignment and storytelling needed both top down and bottom up to bring everything together. The pillars remain the same. The business, technology, and people doesn't change. But I think you're just talking about a bigger canvas. And in order to bring that to life, they you almost need to run any AI project or a set of projects as a transformation exercise. Um, but if you are a smaller organization, potentially your framework could be leaner, more direct, right? You might identify 4 or 5 core business challenges, really go after them with tight AI pilots with good solid decision making criteria at the other end of
Right.
them, and then kind of tackle it in the sense of quick wins and sort of tangible results. That would sort of be the builder scalar kind of
Yeah.
approach to it. So in my opinion, I'm seeing sort of both ends of those in terms of frameworks, if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, and that definitely makes sense because the smaller startups and the smaller companies have the advantage, right? That they can move faster. And but with the bigger organizations, right? Like they do have to, like you said, like treat it as a big transformation project. So are you actually are you picking up on this that the bigger organizations are actually treating these as large projects? So essentially they're bringing in consultants or they're actually having a centralized task force or a team that's looking at it from end to end. Or here's the twist, which is do the bigger organizations need to take a page from the playbook of the smaller companies and move really faster? So actually not do, like having those big five consultancies come in and do like a 3-month-old project, because in the world of AI, we really like don't have that kind of time, right? So again, so I'm digging in a little bit more into this because I'm just very curious to know. I know you've been at the front row seat. You've been seeing some of these transformations, and not a lot of people have, honestly. So you're one of the few folks out there, right? Like who's looking at it more from the outside in, like an AI, expert who's looking at like how is this actually getting adopted, while most of the other people that I talk about are pretty much wrapped up in their function, or they're wrapped up in the business that they're trying to build, right?
Right,
So they only look at it from like, this is my product, this can solve your problem from an AI lens, and I want to push through, right? Like if you're talking to a startup founder.
right.
But if you're talking to an AI marketing leader, like we've had some folks from like Google, NVIDIA, and all who come on the show, and they talk about it. They are talking about it in terms of like the business priorities that they're trying to push through, right? But I think I'm really looking for your viewpoints on just thinking about it from how do we get AI, right? Like into this organization, into the marketing organization, breathing it into the fabric of a marketing organization. So, yeah, like where does it is it that cookie cutter? It's large, projects versus like the smaller, nimbler startups.
No, I see where you're coming from. And in so many ways, I can take this and answer this, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And the one thing I will say, just kind of to stick with the large and small analogy and then diverge from it, right? With larger organizations comes access, frankly speaking, because they have the wherewithal to have all the tools under the sun
true.
in their tech stack, or experiment with them, or eager to partner with them. So that access is definitely an advantage, and a
Mm.
smaller firm may not have that.
Yeah,
That's another just kind of distinguishing point, if you will, because of that technology pillar. However, to go back on your question, I'm seeing all of these models at play. It's not one way or the other. It's not where, okay, a large organization only moves at the pace of a large organization and everything within it becomes like this massive exercise. Even they, within their teams or in smaller areas, are trying to be nimble and come up with like more rapid experimentation approaches, rapid prototyping, just kind of to show the wins and build momentum, and then take it to sort of organization wide implementation, if you will. Um, so that's definitely happening. My point earlier was that just because of the sheer scale of them, even if you have a rapid win, sometimes it's not as, if you were a 100-person organization, it's a different story. You kind of know all of those people personally,
yeah,
and you can walk up to their desks and be like, hey, look at this great win. I want you to adopt it. That's a whole different ball game compared to geographically dispersed global companies with like, thousands of employees. So I think it comes down to that.
yeah,
The intent is definitely to be nimble and agile. That's the whole premise of AI, right? One of the stronger premises of AI. So I
yeah.
don't think it's necessarily that they are going just one path, saying, "Oh no, everything has to be a big massive transformation." Um, it's a mix of everything that's coming to play.
What about IT? And the reason why I ask that is because for so many years, like we as marketers, we've kind of had this middle layer of like marketing operations, which has been sort of like, and I call it the middle layer between marketing and IT and marketing and technology, right? And we've been sort of delegating any of the technology integration stuff, to our marketing operations teams. And so they've been a little further away from mind, the IT team, right? And now, because this is a talk about technology, right? And IT is definitely squarely in the middle of it. And unfortunately, IT does get a bad rep, right? Like in the sense of like, oh, they slow down the projects and, there's like so many hoops to go through. So are you seeing any changes at all? Again, when we're talking about like AI adoption in the role of IT, right? Like for AI adoption for marketing, like anything that you might have even heard from your network or seen yourself too.
Right, right. No, I think absolutely, because to your point, these are all AI technology tools, right? At the end of the
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
And having a tech organization that is just as educated, if not even more at the forefront of these tools, is certainly a competitive advantage in this day and age. Um, And I have seen the advantages of a bought-in tech organization. They are proactively testing tools out there, bringing tools into the mix, sort of, connecting with business leaders and business participants, if you will, to analyze and test out these tools, kind of on an enterprise level, then bringing licenses in. So very invested, very actively involved tech organization at this in the age of AI, 100% competitive advantage, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah, yeah.
Right? And I think the companies that have that or are investing in that are going to be your winners as we go along in this
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hope somebody is listening, right? Yes, absolutely. So, okay, so yeah, I did want to give you the opportunity to share any examples if you have any of, successful AI, I guess, adoption, right? Like projects, because it's always very encouraging to hear, right? Like when you actually, there's some light at the end of the tunnel, right? Because otherwise
Right.
everybody's kind of like dabbling around in it. And yes, the time frame has been short. So not a lot of folks have been able to kind of really get like the ROI stories out of it, etc. Right? But still, I'd love to like know, especially in your seat, right? Like, are you seeing successes, and if you'd like to share any successful like cases.
Right. And actually, my role at Intuit is exactly that, right? Building, scaling, and transforming marketing and communications with GenAI. So it's a front row seat if there is one. And it's been so fascinating to see strong GenAI plays and I don't just mean Intuit, right? From some of the companies that are really embracing AI, it's been fascinating to see strong Gen AI plays at both ends, both tactical as well as strategic at this point, right? So you have on one hand your AI native marketer. They are the ones who are using these tools on a daily basis to add speed and efficiency to their day-to-day work, and that could mean anything from like creative brainstorming to information retrieval and structuring, to writing your first marketing copy drafts through AI. These are like your grab it by the horns and like work with it every day kind of people, which is great because there's definitely that sort of getting ready for it and bringing it into your muscle. AI is a muscle almost at this
Yeah,
point,
yeah,
and the organizations that have more of these, not just marketers, people, I would say, are going to again be stronger in the
yeah,
end. But you also have organizations at this point who are actually looking at AI in strategic workflows and how to disrupt them, how to bring velocity to the strategic workflows. And that is almost invariably tied to business outcomes, right? And that could mean anything, like you're trying to improve the overall customer experience. You're trying to bring more, faster, better campaigns and offers to your customers, because at the end of the day, that affects the bottom line. So several, like a few examples come to mind. There are plays in sort of the search world where
mhm.
everybody is looking at this point at like the generative search, and seeing how LLM traffic is coming to your
Yes.
website. It
I've been
means
dreaming about it now. It's that prevalent.
it brings potentially lower traffic, but potentially highly qualified traffic. And there's, how do you optimize in a world where both SEO and GEO live together? How do you optimize for both aspects of it?
Yeah,
Those are the kind of use cases. There is, content monetization. There is interlinking within the sites. So
yeah,
much is possible, I think, because of the way AI works. Like your tactical uses could be generative AI, you're making something from the AI, but your more sophisticated users could have predictive AI. You're using it for better customer targeting, you're deepening the client journey. And honestly, scale at this level was unprecedented a few years ago, because manually you cannot go through 1,000 web pages and figure out where to put internal links across your site,
right, right,
right?
right.
And you throw 10 resources at this, still it's a slow process,
Yeah,
right? But now with AI, you can potentially feed it all of your website and basically ask it to look for patterns and be like, okay, what's related to what? can you come up with links for me? Now, how to get those links on is a different story. But my point is that the front end of it, the having the idea and coming up with something tangible has been wildly disrupted, in my opinion, with GenAI.
Yeah. I mean, those are very interesting. I mean, like you said, both ends of the spectrum, right? Like some of the examples that you pointed out, like the content monetization, internal linking, right? GEO, right? Like these may sound tactical, but they are very interesting because, to your point, GEO didn't even exist, right? Like a year
Right.
ago. So it's almost like, how do we get ready for GEO? And everybody's kind of like looking at each other, right? Like, firstly, are we aligned on the definition? And secondly, just it's still a black box, right? Like people are kind of like trying out different things. I want to come up in the LLM search results, but I don't get I guess, the feedback from the LLMs as to what are the queries that people are putting in so that I can actually optimize for those queries, right? So it's almost like a one-sided play right now. So I'm definitely very curious to kind of get into and do a double click, even in these use cases that you talked about, but I know that's not what this show is about today, right? So I'll refrain from that, but it is very interesting to kind of like think about like how are folks using AI for AI, pretty much,
Yeah,
right?
that's a good way to
And
put it.
yeah, and then the interlinking one that you talked about, right? Like, that's also fascinating because that also has a lot of SEO and GEO benefits again, right? Like if you've got those interlinking things going on. But I'll bubble up, right? And I'll come right up, back up to the strategy end of the spectrum, right? So are you seeing that in some of the AI projects or AI submissions that you get, right? That this would be a great use case for AI. Um, is there like the starting point? Is it the business leaders? So essentially, um, the go-to-market team, right? The revenue teams, where they're kind of focused more on, hey, we need to accelerate the pipeline, or we're focusing on certain strategic accounts, right? And they're essentially identifying and coming up with like these are the 10 or 15 areas that we want to get into more, or these are the products that we want to like cross-sell more. Like, they are essentially coming in and saying that we want to employ AI towards this. Are those the kind of use cases that you're seeing more now? Is it a trend line that's changing there? Or are you still seeing the channel owners, folks who are deeper, right, like on the ground, coming up and saying, hey, I want to find a way to really get like my blog copywriting scaled out, right? Or you know what I mean? Like, or I want to like see how I can do better paid media analysis, right? So
Right.
those are tactical kind of a use cases versus the strategic use cases where the business leaders are looking to employ AI.
Right.
Where's that mix happening? And are you seeing any changes or shifts in that trend?
Um, I think the use cases are coming from all ends at this point. And let me bring this back a couple of years ago when I was still at Franklin Templeton. AI was just getting started, right? So as I mentioned, that time the whole maybe it was tool centric, tactical. We had that conversation. We almost sat down with every department, honestly, or
Yeah.
there, every function, not even just marketing. But I remember going round robin across marketing, finance, sales, what have you, sitting down and kind of almost identifying business pain points, business challenges, then sort of having the discussion and the double clicks to see whether AI could be helpful in those particular things. Um, Fast forward a couple of years, I can get my use cases from people deep in the channel, deep in the work actually, because they might come across repetitive tasks that five other people do that they will bubble up and to a centralized team like ours and be like, okay, can you help us with this, right?
Mhm.
So it yes, it's tactical if you look at it that way.
Mhm.
However, it has potential because it can be scaled across a number of people and make their day-to-day efficient. If their day-to-day is efficient, they are then freed for higher level strategic work,
Yeah.
right? So it's definitely an investment in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Secondly, on the other side of the spectrum, we also have AI plays at the strategic end, where based on your annual goals or business goals or what have you, again, pain points is sort of the starting point, and to see whether we can apply AI to resolve any of them. So I think, to answer your question, honestly, the use cases even today are coming from all ends, all sides. The shift I've seen over the last couple of years is going from tactical and singular use cases to also include more of the
Mhm.
strategic business outcome kind of use
Yeah.
cases.
Okay, that makes sense. Anything comes to mind, Rohini, which, makes you smile when you think about like a use case that was employed and it was just wonderful, right? Like how it really slashed the time, or, forget even like the ROI, but if you have ROI, that's great too, right? If you have any stories around that. But anything that you recall where, you've seen something come in and like really sometimes you just have those wow moments, right? Like, oh my
Right.
God, like wow, right? Like, I mean, I have that sometimes when I ask a question of ChatGPT and I get something and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? Like, I want to turn around and tell somebody about it right away. Like, can you believe it, right? Like,
Right.
this is what I got, and so anything like that comes to mind.
Right. I have a funny one actually. We had a investment team that I worked with on creating their content for global consumption, and they were very, very, very particular about the imagery that got associated with their work. And pre-AI, we had the longest like back and forth sessions with them, right? Like whatever, just nailing down an image for their content was a thing. And post AI, and I don't think we shared with them that this image came out of AI. We kept it to ourselves. But
Mm.
we created an image for them. It was a financial report on India, and so they wanted, for whatever reason, they wanted a peacock in the image, and with an iconic structure, something like that, like something very specific. And sure enough, we stick it into AI, and out comes this beautiful image of a peacock in front of the Taj Mahal, no less. And we sent it to them half skeptical. We like, no, here we go again. It's going to take like 2 weeks to nail this image down, and they come back with a love it. And we just had the biggest laugh ever,
Wow,
because
that's great. Yeah.
it was, we had gone from like a 3 week rather fussy, sort of time loop with them on images for forever before that, to like something that came out of AI which we didn't even think would fly and
Yeah.
was approved in minutes. And sure enough, we shared with them after that, and they became fans and converts.
Wow.
So that brings a smile.
Yeah, yeah, that's well, it depends on I guess, the size of the pain, right?
Yes.
Also, and then also like how quickly you got the solution, so it's relative. So that's a good funny story for sure,
Yes.
right? So are you, I mean, I'm actually picking on this that now it's like no longer about tools, right? Like in fact, already marketers have reached that point where we don't want to talk about like point solutions as much as we can avoid. And so there's definitely that trend about like moving from point solution conversations to, can my existing platforms and my existing vendors, right, like have this on their AI roadmaps, right? Like, so there is that shift, for sure, right? That's happening. It's just fatigue, right? Like another AI tool, right? Like to learn about, and to bring in, right? Like that's a very costly and expensive proposition, right? So when I take a step back and I think about, marketers and the road and the journey that we've been on, right? Like, so there was this dabbling, there were tools. Now we want our vendors and platforms that we already have to essentially come on with like AI, um, features essentially, right? As part of that workflow. And then you get into agents, right? Then you're getting into agents for automation, agents to supplement, agents to assist, right? Like those are some of the categories of agents. And I'm also now coming across, again, agents which are not just about, I guess, like automation and assisting, but now these are agents that are doing deeper analysis, right? Like these are definitely enhancing, the quality of your work, right? We are
Right.
still some ways away from having agents lead, right? Like work streams, or how they want to talk about like orchestration of agents, where the agents are talking to each other. So where I'm going with this is that I'd love to know, like this particular roadmap journey of tools to agents to, agents leading, agents assisting, and then agents orchestrating, that sort of a thing, right? Like, um, where are you seeing most of the activity right now? Would you say it's still very much in the early stages, or are you actually, beginning to see agents actually come in supplementing, right, and enhancing uh, marketers' work?
I think it's still evolving for sure. Um, On the marketing side of things, um, I continue to see single point solutions, as well as moves to incorporate AI features from tools that are already in workflows and in the stack because they are integrated with other things that teams work on, right?
Mm.
And a nod to agents is starting to happen, if you will.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
more on the product end of things, I think that's where agents are sort of being deployed front facing. Like, you go to a Salesforce, or you even an Intuit with its latest QuickBooks release, they have agentic functions happening in their
Mm.
products
Interesting. Yeah.
that have hit the marketplace. But in terms of sort of the actual work of a company, that roadmap is very much still evolving. And I see, the thing is, I have not sat on the front end of the product yet to
Right.
comment meaningfully on that end. And there might be single point solutions even there. But I've at least seen agents deployed in the marketplace, if you will.
Which is absolutely an interesting observation, and I'm going to try to bring it back into like that roadmap picture that I was talking about, where folks are moving from the point solutions to actually the platforms themselves evolving to have
Mhm.
AI capabilities in them. And so, if we were just to take that platforms evolving to have AI capabilities, and I would map it to what you're saying, that you're seeing more of it on the product front, right? Like the agentic activity on the product front. So that is actually a one-to-one connection right there, right? So whether we're talking about having, an Adobe stack, or we're talking about Salesforce or Marketo or any of these, bigger, more entrenched, right, like players in the marketing ecosystem, definitely they are the ones who we are seeing and wanting to see AI capabilities from, and I mean, I can't say that all of them are definitely like coming out with things that are like absolutely like, working the way we would want them to work.
Right.
Right. But yeah, but that's a good observation that product teams, yeah, and that's also probably because product is closer to technology because products are built on technology, right? So they're more comfortable with understanding and the adoption of AI, right? Versus, and this is just me speculating, and I would love for you to add in here for sure, versus marketing as a whole, which is not just the folks like you and me who are coming more from a technical and a data driven kind of a mindset. Marketers in general are not necessarily very I guess like best suited to understand the promise of AI, right? Like, so there could be that which is playing in to the later adoption of AI into our world and our outcomes, our outputs, and product team gets it intuitively because they're closer to technology, essentially, is what I'm trying to say.
I almost want to play devil's advocate on that.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
And because I think marketers in general sort of are innovators by nature,
Hmm.
the curiosity helps us get to things like AI, especially when it is democratized like the way it is right now, right? So all some of the Chat GPT notebooks and then the Claudes and Perplexities of the world are available to all of us,
Yeah.
right? So I don't need like an agentic motion to actually go play with AI.
Mm.
So I think in that sense, marketers have been very quick to come in, be curious, and fearlessly experiment with AI, if you will. Um, but there, however, their connection to product is layered, right? It's not, sometimes it may be a direct one, and sometimes it's
Yeah.
not. So I think that's where the slight disconnect, if you will, like,
Yeah.
can I draw a straight line and a thread to the latest innovative agentic motion happening in the product space? I may or may not be, depending on where I sit in marketing, right? However, that is not to take away from the fact that absolutely use cases are being identified, experimentation is happening very much in the marketing and communication space to bring whatever it be, speed, quality, efficiency, just kind of a new way of doing things
Mm.
to everything that a marketing organization does, especially if it's treated like a growth organization or growth engine within the organization.
Mm. That's a very interesting, I guess, like a double click, right? Like, which is, um, because I'm just thinking that yes, marketers have been adopting a lot of the generative AI, right? Like things that are available to us, and even the use of LLMs, right? Like for generative AI kind of applications like copy and creative or brainstorming, right? Like creative brainstorming. Product marketing has had a lot of use cases there in terms of research, etc., right? And persona building and things like that, for sure, right? Like in those camps, yes. I guess then when you think about it more from a marketing impact to revenue or impact to the business side, right? Like where we're now talking about deeper analysis, data analysis, right? Like deeper, predictive kind of functions.
Mhm.
Or now we're where we're going actually. Maybe I would even go as far as saying that it's not just LLMs, because LLMs is just one type of model for AI, but there are so many other AI models, right? I mean, there are models which are like based on, and again, this is, I can say the names, but I don't necessarily know how they work, but there are like neurosymbolic models, right? And there are other models out there that, essentially we've not tapped, right, like
Mhm.
into those models, and there is a reluctance, not even reluctance, but there is some sort of a hesitation, right, like for marketers, just because they seem to be too technical, right, and they're too data steeped. So I think that's probably where I feel that maybe that is what is keeping marketers a little bit away from those applications, right? And the Gen AI ones have been the ones that we've adopted more readily. I don't know if this is making sense, but I'd love to know if you're following along on this and seeing anything, because there are newer products that are coming out in the market which are for marketers to help them with
Yeah,
analysis, with strategy, right? Like
right,
which are definitely not your Gen AI category.
right, right. And I think I am seeing applications happen across the spectrum, frankly.
Yeah,
Generative AI is almost like it provides a fodder, right? It's the what. It's like I've seen it gives you the scale and the velocity. You can make 50 campaign variations instead of the five you used to make manually. Let's just compartmentalize that.
yeah,
Right? The next layer up is probably I'm going to make predictive, right? That gives you
yeah,
the precision targeting, the who and the when sort of
yeah,
thing, because you can now use one of these tools that are available or technologies that are available to in real time analyze thousands of signals and really pinpoint where your customers are, when they're going to be there and who to target,
yeah,
right? And that's almost making sure that you're not wasting a single ounce of that fodder you created with the Gen AI,
yeah,
right? And then to tie it together, it's the analytics and the competitive intelligence tools that are out there, and some of the strategy thinking tools that almost ties it all together nicely in a bow, because you're using the Gen AI for scale, you're using the predictive for precision targeting, and you're threading it all together with sort of the human-led strategic aspect that has to be there. I mean, I don't think we're at a point of autonomous at all,
no,
right? Right. A human in the loop is very much
yeah,
in there right now, and that threads the needle, ensuring everything's driving a measurable impact for marketing. So, um, I think just I think depends on the organization. You might see more of one type of use in some, and in others you might see more of a full spectrum.
Yeah. So essentially, it's a mixed bag, right,
Mixed
everywhere
bag.
right now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of like the adoption of AI, again, in marketing, right? Are there any like big players that you're seeing are coming out with, stacks that are actually getting more adopted, um, versus people are still kind of like, picking up like this for this function and like, the example that you just kind of pointed out, like something else for predictive and then something else for like the campaign variations, etc. Versus, can you think of like a platform or something that's coming out which is actually providing a more integrated sort of experience and touching upon the end to end in some function, in some, for a workflow, let's say.
Right.
And it could be
Right.
the Adobe, the Marketo, Salesforce, anything, right? Like, have you seen
Yeah.
any of those?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all of these big players, right? And a lot of times they happen to be entrenched in organizations in the tech stack of multiple functions,
Yeah,
and then it's that much easier to pick up and use them as your preferred partner as you're getting into AI, right? Because they're well integrated into your otherwise machine, if you will.
yeah,
Uh, Cost of entry and sort of like the pain of entering a new tool in
yeah,
is very real, right?
yeah,
However, if there's a specific application for it that is justified, that is not being provided by your entrenched player, then definitely organizations are going outside for that
yeah,
particular use of it.
yeah.
But I think it's the same names that you mentioned. They are the big players in the space. The Googles of the world, the Adobes of the world, who have also put it on their charter to be AI first and AI forward. So they are definitely, I think, being used where they are entrenched and part of the whole equation.
So given that a lot of folks are like Marketo Salesforce kind of shops, right? Like Marketo as a marketing automation, and then you've got Salesforce as your CRM, right? So if you just zoom in into this combination of Marketo and Salesforce, right? Um, any before after, right, that comes to mind in terms of like how it used to be done, and now in the last 3, 4 months, things have changed, right? Like even using the Marketo Salesforce stack.
I think that's evolving, and it's evolving because the technology is also moving so fast. Plus, the pilots that are happening are being tweaked as they are happening.
Mhm.
You're almost like what do they call it? You're flying the plane as you're building it, kind of situation is
Hmm.
happening. So the before and afters are coming at us in distinct pieces. I don't think we've seen necessarily like a clean, here's the before, and a clean, here's the after. Because previously, an AI solution might have been available in one piece of that workflow, and now maybe there are three other spots that we
Hmm.
have, the chance to influence. And
Hmm.
there are four others which you don't, but maybe 2 months down the line you will.
Hmm.
So I don't know that a clean before and after because of a text like a Marketo Salesforce or any other for that matter has really happened. I can't think of a single example where it's like, oh, perfect. Like this was our before, and look how much we have saved, how much our quality has improved, whatever that metric is, because of all the AI we have now layered on it. It's not a one and done, and I haven't seen like a clean picture just yet.
Yeah, I mean, I just like to ask that because, you never know, right? Like if somebody might actually be using it, because I have not seen it either. In fact,
Yeah.
I'm not very impressed with like some of the stuff that's coming out right now that we are experimenting or trying out, right? Like with some of these vendors. And in some ways, it's almost like if you're a forward-thinking person and you want to actually play out with the tools that are out there, right, and are not part of these big stacks, you're kind of feeling like you're a little handcuffed, right? Like because you have to wait for these roadmaps to evolve, right? So I have not seen it either, but I keep asking because maybe
Right.
somebody has, right? And
Yeah.
we haven't.
Yeah.
So I think maybe like we can just conclude our conversation with like a last question, which is, uh, the road to AI adoption, right? I mean, there are a lot of it's not very rosy, of course, right? And while it's very exciting, there's a lot of upside to be had. There are challenges, right, in using AI and getting AI adoption, right, in companies. So I'd love to just kind of maybe talk about like the obstacles also that we should be aware, that we have to kind of like plan for and we have to overcome to be successfully deploying AI solutions. So what are some of these obstacles that come to your mind, right, like for AI adoption?
Right. I think skepticism is definitely one of them. Fear is another. And there's a very healthy, like, general sensation that AI is coming for you, it's coming for your job, and everything in between there, right? So, the messaging I've seen most resonate is to focus on the efficiencies achievable with AI, the sort of the hey, let's upskill you and make you ready for the future, show you tangible wins, show you how to better yourself or better your output. This is not here to replace you. This is to augment your day-to-day function, right?
Sure, sure.
So there's definitely that. I think in terms of barriers to entry, it's almost like it can be very daunting, right? All of this is coming at you. There are thousands of tools at this point. And you could, for somebody who's not yet dabbled, how do you even start?
Mhm.
Right? So, in my opinion, it's that first single low risk, low barrier to entry, do something with it. The idea is not so much to become an expert right away, but it's to try out something new and start to build that AI muscle. Because if you do something so small and demonstrate to yourself a win and to your team and it's sort of an
Mhm.
immediate value add, that's when you, I think, overcome some of these barriers and you kind
Yeah,
of get into that fearless experimentation mode, hopefully, and build momentum and pull to tackle like the next AI use case or more challenging thing that comes across your desk. And you
sure,
begin to think of it as like, oh, maybe I can use AI for this.
sure, sure.
You know,
Yeah,
it's almost a it's a changed mindset.
yeah, it's a
Um,
growth mindset, right?
yeah, it's a growth mindset, and I think with anything, not just AI, it has to be nurtured
Yeah,
um, and
yeah.
pulled forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think those are like some really good points, and they are real, right? I mean, there is the skepticism, there is the fear. I mean, these are real things that need to be addressed. Absolutely, right? And would you have any like tips, etc., right? Like for some of the folks who are listening, tuning in, who might be even marketers, marketing leaders themselves, who are kind of like thinking about like how do I get this AI adoption going in my company, right? Like in the sense like how do I get started? Any tips at all over there in the sense like start with a task force or start with just a documentation of like the pain points or the use cases or anything at all, right? Like that you would maybe like leave them with. Um,
Right.
yeah,
Again, I think I would answer this in terms of the type of organization that you are
yeah,
in.
yeah.
Um, to me, it's, maybe it's never as cut and dried, but like it's either in the build camp, the scale camp, or the transform camp, right? If there's no playbook and then you're in the build mode, you're like basically starting with business challenges and figuring out, what could have the most impact. Let's analyze that. Let's go after something with tight pilots, see what we get, right? If you're sort of in the middle there, something exists and some stuff has been tried out, you're sort of in the scale mindset, of the whoever has had success, make them shine, bring, socialize all of their work. If it has applicability to other things in the organization, by all means, scale it. Um, and or if you're at the sort of like the biggest end of things, where generally speaking the business is humming along, then you almost have like a transform a situation on your hand where you're equipping everybody with all the tools that there are, encouraging them to find even better use cases or identify elevated problems, and kind of bring AI into their workflows and into their everyday. So I think
Yeah.
It depends on where you're sitting and what type of organization you're in. Your starting point might look different. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to tackle a business challenge and going about it in a systematic learning sort of way, you know, um, experimenting, documenting, figuring out, what works, what doesn't, you're assured of an outcome at the end, but you better be
Yeah.
brave enough to make that call. Like, you don't have to continue something that is not doing well, but sure enough, if something's doing well, you want to amplify it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think most of the companies right now are on the build side, right? Like in the sense that they're just trying to build out something, right? Like, unless I'm hearing you wrong over there, which is, say you have email program that's already running well. And so now maybe that's an example of you already have an email function, but you want to scale it because you want to personalize it even more and you want to do better segmentation. Okay. So in that sense, I understand like what you're saying, build, scale, and transform. That's a good framework. I think we've covered quite a lot of ground. Absolutely. So anything else that Rohini you want to like leave, our viewers in the end, like as they're thinking about AI transformation, getting ready for AI, if you will, right? Like any other resources that they could be like looking at or podcasts, etc., that you would recommend, anything to just kind of keep that, exploration going.
Right. Marketing AI Institute is one of them that I follow,
Yeah.
and they have, like, I think, good podcasts and reports and sort of current news.
Yeah.
Um, and that comes to mind. I think all of the big consulting houses have occasional papers on AI at this point.
Yeah.
Those are resources. But I think in whatever capacity you are as part of your marketing organization, right? There are things to do, and it's been fascinating to see sort of the evolution from tactical and tool centric to more of the strategic end of things.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to kind of be in this driver's seat and to actively shape the future of marketing. Who knows what
Yeah.
it looks like a year out, for example.
Yeah, and you're in the perfect place, right? I mean, in fact, I keep seeing like new roles pop up, and it makes a lot of sense because a lot of businesses are, I think, realizing that you need to have people who are focused, who are kind of like looking out into the world and seeing what else is happening in AI and bringing it back in. So I've seen like new roles like AI explorers, AI evangelists, of course, right? And of course, the infamous or famous, as you would, it's up to you, the go-to-market engineer, right? So there are definitely all these new roles that are evolving, but it's all kind of showing the fact that we need to have function, a strategic, head that's looking at, right, like how do we map these AI solutions to our business? So it's not just a sloppy, right, like trying here and there kind of thing. So yeah, so I mean, this has been great. I was really looking forward to kind of get a peek into your head and see, right, like what you're seeing in terms of AI adoption. And you've definitely shared a lot of nuggets, so thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Okay, great.